my koala la la la, koala la la la, koala la la la, koala la la la. Fuzzy cuddly fur, koala, a waterproof coat. Koala, hello, nice to meet you. Koala, oh koala la la, koala.
Hi everybody, I'm back with GrammyB's story time. And yesterday when we left off, we were reading the book called The Pilgrim Party, and day after day the pilgrims were sailing along the coast trying to find just the perfect place to land, and they encountered Indians, and the Indians were just as afraid of the pilgrims as they were of the Indians, I believe. So we'll start here. After nearly a month had passed, the Mayflower came into a beautiful harbor, just what the pilgrims wanted. Close to the shore, a big old rock seemed to welcome the pilgrims with a smile. They named it Plymouth Rock. Look at that. Load after load of pilgrims left the Mayflower in the bouncing lifeboat. Out they climbed on Plymouth Rock and took a look around them. They saw a hill for their fort. They cleared fields for their crops, trees for their houses, and a brook brim full of drinking water. It looked like the perfect spot to all of the fathers. Without waiting a day, the pilgrims started to plan their town. The first thing they did was to name it Plymouth. As it would take too long to build a whole village at once, they built one great big house where all could live. From morning till night, the fathers chopped and chopped. Mothers waxed paper for windows. There was not a piece of glass in Plymouth. The children cut rushes to thatch the roof. They had a lot of work to do, and you know why they had to work so fast? What was there and coming? Winter. When it was finished, they moved in, and here they stayed the whole winter long. Early in the spring, 19 Pilgrim fathers started their own log houses. They called the main street Leyden, after the town where they had lived in Holland. And to this day, it still has that name. Look at that. Those old log houses that they built. One day, while the Pilgrim fathers were in the town hall, they heard the children scream. Picking up their guns, they ran to the door, and there stood a painted Indian, all by himself. He was a very nice Indian. His name was Samoset. The pilgrims liked him immensely. In very good English, he said, "Me come help." And when he left, he promised to come again. On the following Sunday, Samoset brought 4 of his Indian friends to see the pilgrims, and they all stayed for dinner. The Indians had such a good time, they wanted to bring their chief the next Sunday, and this pleased the pilgrims beyond words. For Samoset's chief was a powerful man. He ruled many tribes. His name was Massasoit. Look at that. The chief was coming. Not many days after this, Massasoit arrived with all of his tribe. He brought his peace pipe with him, and everyone smoked it. The pilgrims and the Indians promised to be friends forever. When Massasoit and his braves went home, one Indian boy remained with the pilgrims. His name was Squanto. Have you heard of Squanto? Yes. Once his family had lived in a wigwam just where the Pilgrim town now stood, and Squanto felt very at home in Plymouth. He knew every path in the woods, and he showed the pilgrims how to trap wild animals, how to catch fish in snares, and how to plant corn in the hills. Squanto also taught them the Indian language. That was a wonderful thing, wasn't it? When everyone was nicely settled in Plymouth, the Mayflower sailed back across the sea to England. Not a single pilgrim was on board. The pilgrims were still very, very good. Every Sunday they went to church in Plymouth, whether it rained or not. Look at those nice drawings. There, little boys and girls might whisper, and fathers and mothers might go to sleep, but not for long, for the watchful tithing man had a stick with a feather on one end and a round knob on the other. Those who went to sleep he tickled with the feather. Those who whispered he rapped them on the head with the other end. All summer long the men worked in the fields, raising grain and vegetables and big tall corn. The children gathered berries. Evenings were quiet. There were no movies or radios in Plymouth. When fall came and the crops were harvested, the Pilgrims had twice as much food as they needed for winter. They didn't know what to do with it all. Look what a bountiful crop they had. That's so wonderful. So what do you think they were going to do? One of the Pilgrims suggested a Thanksgiving party. They would eat until their sides ached. Everyone agreed that this was a fine idea, so a wonderful feast was planned, and Squanto carried an invitation to the Indians, and they accepted with many thanks. The mothers baked pies and cakes and loaves of bread. The children dug for clams. The fathers went hunting and they brought home turkeys and deer and rabbits. Wow, so much wonderful food. Early Thursday morning, before the Pilgrims had eaten their breakfast, they were surprised by the wild shouts and yells of Indians. Since their guests had all arrived, the party started at once. Ever since, Thanksgiving has come on a Thursday. Big, long picnic tables were set beneath the trees. Everyone sat down and started to eat. One of the Indians brought popcorn for the children. He threw handfuls into the air, and the Pilgrims thought it was snowing. I love popcorn. The feast lasted for 3 whole days, and such a feast it was. Of course, they took their time out to sleep, and between meals, the Indians played games, and the Pilgrim army drilled. The little girls spilled turkey gravy all over their dress fronts. The little boys ate so much corn they were butter from ear to ear. And when it was all over, the Indians gave 3 cheers for the Pilgrims. Never before had they eaten such wonderful food. And on their way home, even Massasoit, chief of all the tribes, agreed that it had been the best party that he had ever attended. Wow. And so I just wanted to say a little bit about this book. It says The Pilgrim's Party, this book, is one of a series of books written a generation ago by Sadie Beth and Anson Lowitz. The series was inspired by the author's young daughter Bobbin, who had a keen interest in hearing more about the real people who had lived many years ago. Other books in this series include The Cruise of Mr. Christopher Columbus, General George the Great, and The Magic Fountain. Now, the widespread popularity of these books during the 1930s is not surprising. Here were stories very young people could understand. Mrs. Lowitz, a former teacher, and Mr. Lowitz, a busy advertising executive, used simple, straightforward language to bring historical figures alive as warm human people. And this is very interesting because this was written in the 1930s, even before I was born. Wow, that's a long time ago. Here's a fun book, The Koala Who Could. The Koala Who Could. Have you ever seen a koala bear? In a wonderful place where the day was just dawning and the breezes blew soft on a warm golden morning, in a place where the creatures ran wild and played free, a koala called Kevin. He clung to a tree. Can you see him there? Look at that. He's just clinging to the tree. Oh my, he's a little guy. A nice grayer feller you never would meet, as soft as a soft thing from ear tufts to his feet. His favorite way to relax in the sun was to cling and to nap and to munch a leaf bun. And after all this, well, he'd need a nice rest. Yes, Kevin liked sticking to what he knew best. And I think sometimes we all like to do that, don't we? We like the familiar. You see, high up was safe since he liked a slow pace, while the ground down below seemed a frightening place. Too fast and too loud and too big and too strange. Nope, Kevin preferred not to move or to change. Look at all those animals. He was intimidated by them. So he clung to his tree as he knew what to do and was never too keen to try anything new. So when Wombat stopped by and shouted one day, "Hey, Kevin, why don't you come down here and play?" I think," he replied, "I should stay on my plant. I'm busy right now. No, I'm sorry, I can't." "Why not?" cried the Ruse with a super loud cheer. "Yes, why?" called the Dingoes. "There's nothing to fear." But Kevin, who'd never been one to act fast, said, "I've clinging to do, but it's so nice that you asked." Yes, it was nice of them. As Kevin sat watching them chatter and share, a part of him wished he could join in down there. But he knew he'd miss home. It was dark and so late. The whole thing was risky. Adventure could wait. Whatever the invite, he'd always say no. Oh dear. It seemed Kevin just couldn't let go. Look at that. He's just clinging and clinging. Oh, Kevin. So his life was the same no matter the day. The weeks came and went and the months just rolled away. And Kevin stayed still while the world moved around until he awoke to a worrying sound. I wonder what it is. Tap, tap, the sound went. Well, this was a blow. Tap, tappity, tap, 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 tap. Oh, no. "Uncling," the crowd called, which had gathered below. "Leap and we'll catch you. Just let yourself go." But Kevin was scared. "Let go? No, I shan't. I won't," shouted Kevin. "Oh, dear, I just..." What do you think's going to happen? "I just can't." Whoomp! Down came the tree, and with it was bringing crash and a wallop, a Kevin still clinging. Oh, I hope Kevin didn't get hurt. Kevin, he carefully opened one eye and looked up at the love staring down from the sky. Then one paw by one paw he loosened his hold. He felt springy and light and happy and very bold. The worst he could think of had now come to pass, and he was just fine. Why, he felt quite first class. So when Wombat leaned over and held his paw out, Kevin no longer felt worry or doubt. Oh, that's so nice. When Dingo asked, "Now will you come out to play?" the crowd all joined in with a, "What do you say?" And even though this wasn't part of his plan, Kevin replied, "Yes, I think that I can." And Kevin from then on was always called Can Do. Because life can be great when you try something new. And look how happy Kevin looks. Can you see him there? Look at that. Kevin can do. Oh, and he's made so many friends. So I'm going to say good night, and I love you all. Are you thinking of something you're thankful for every day? Oh, you got a new pair of shoes. That's a great thing to be thankful for. You got a new toy? Wow. And you got a new book. So many things to be thankful for. And you know what? I'm thankful for each of you. You. And you. And you. And you. And you. 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 I love you.
Amen.